Okay, hi everybody. J&T podcast, J&T GSLC podcast. We're back by popular demand. Yeah, so
Command performance.
everybody's kind of surprised. Kartika was laughing about that comment, but it is true. Stewardship Committee has asked us to, I guess, come up with a couple guests. We have one here. We'll just a second on that, but. The Stewardship Committee is working really hard. They've been hanging little, I guess, pieces of papers on everybody's doorknobs. I don't know, people in the area, mainly the Riverview community, and they've been knocking on doors, hanging up little, I guess, informational cards. It's been great, and so our first guest, we're going to.
So they asked us to come for the 60th, focus on the 60th anniversary.
Right. This is all kind
which
of
coming up in September.
September 7th. So this is all kind of starting to build up. So that's what the Stewardship Committee has done for the last couple months, and we're trying to build this up. And our special guest today is Pastor John, and welcome. This is kind of a highlight for our podcast, I think.
Yeah. Thank you for being brave.
Obviously a highlight for my life.
Well, yes, our ratings, I think, are going to really be increased.
I think
Your
so.
grandkids will be able to watch
My
this.
grandkids will be
Excellent.
would be impressed.
Yeah, so you're very brave to come on the show.
I
We've had
agree.
quite a few brave people here. We appreciate it. You were here from 1987 to 2012.
That's correct.
24 years
24 years.
out of the 60. So a substantial piece, and we thought that would be a great place to start the 60th celebration of somebody that was here for over a third of our years. So before we get started with questions, any general comments?
No, it's great to be here, and I've watched you guys online, and I never dreamed that I would end up where I am today.
Maybe a nightmare. But that's
Be
all right.
careful what you watch on social media.
So how did you end up here?
Good question. I graduated from seminary in Columbus, Ohio in 1977. And I was, at that time, you were assigned to where you were, at least the region you were going, and I got assigned to eastern North Dakota, which we didn't even know where that was. We had to look it up. Ended up there, and we loved it. We spent 10 years there, had a great time there. And I was asked to interview here at Good Shepherd. I'd interviewed at several places and just didn't seem to fit. And I was asked to interview here. And I remember coming in and talking to Pastor Fred. Fred Damgard was the mission developer pastor at Good Shepherd. He's the one that knocked on the doors and started everything here. He's quite a man. And he was there for 21 years before I was there. So I sat down with Fred and I said, Fred, how in the world does anybody, last 21 years in one parish? It seemed like everybody's shifting around. He said, it kind of grows on you, right? And then I said, well, that's amazing. And then I ended up being there for 24 years. So.
Oh, impressive. So pretty much the first half of our existence. And what did you find when you got here?
I found, I attribute a lot of this to Fred Damgard. To know him is to kind of know Good Shepherd. It's kind of the DNA of the place. And it was a place where I found everybody, it doesn't matter. Everybody was, a lot of churches say everybody's welcome. This place really was a place that lived that out. And I found that out in my interview to come here. I was sitting in the interview and we were going through all kinds of stuff. Evidently, there was some concern that Pastor Fred was marrying anybody in the church that would come in the door and say, we want to get married. He would just automatically do that. And so I was nervous during that interview. And somebody said, now, would you marry someone who's not a member of this church? And I said, absolutely not. I said, I'm already married. And my wife would not approve of it. And somebody told me later, you got the job on that. So, no, it was always a welcoming place.
Yeah, I think even today, I mean, that's what we kind of hang our hat on a lot of times is welcoming. That's years ago when I first started coming here, it was very welcoming, and I know Paul and Joanne were like the most welcoming of the congregants, and Pastor John as well. So I think you've kept that going, and the congregation, I think, has fed off that.
How many people?
Yeah, what was the
big?
size of?
When I first came here?
Yeah,
I think on the rolls there were about 600, which was pretty good size, and we worshipped about 100 people on a Sunday morning.
In the dam guard room.
In what is the dam guard room, and some of the other stuff is also, yeah. So it was about that size. So about when did I leave? 2012. You know, it grew significantly through those days. You know, it was always growing. And I think at that time we had about 1,300 members, and we worshiped right around 300 a Sunday. So,
What year did we build the addition?
okay. I tried to break that out of my mind. That would have been
late 90s?
Would have been real late 90s, early 2000 is when it was built.
And was that challenging?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, it was a tough go. You know, but people got behind it and said this is what we need to do, and we had outgrown. You know, it was going to be, we were already doing 2 services that were full, and because of that, they needed to get more space or add another service to it, and they decided it was time to build a sanctuary. That was kind of their dream all along. Even when Fred was here, they always had, the services were always, kind of temporarily what was the sanctuary there. Eventually, someday, they're going to build a church. It was, even had drawings of it. It was going to be out on 6th Street and all that kind of stuff. So there was always that dream. And so the dream came into play at that point. But it was a stretch, but it was
long process.
Yeah, it was a long process. Well, you're a builder,
Yeah.
Dealing with contractors was not easy. I'll tell you right now.
It's difficult.
It's difficult. Yeah.
But people stepped up and made a commitment, and
People stepped up and they made commitments to it, and a lot of volunteer work. A lot of things were volunteered. We did a lot of the demolition, and work. We had, in fact, the first Christmas Eve service, the late night service, we always had 11 o'clock service, was done out in what would be the new sanctuary, but there were no walls up. All it was footings around it and gravel on the inside, and we had a fire in the center of that. And then we had, probably 70, 80 people there for that candlelight service. And that was the first unofficial service in the new sanctuary. We didn't have a wall up at that point. But, yeah, pretty memorable.
Yeah.
nice. Was that the biggest challenge you think that we overcame, the addition, or was there some other challenges that kind of stick out in your mind, or?
That was something we rallied behind, and that was a challenge, but I think it was one they stepped up and really did well. There were always times, there was always financial things, I mean, I know now you have no trouble financially. But back in the day, it was nip and tuck quite a bit, and it took, a fair amount of effort to make what we had to do. We made adjustments for what we needed to do.
When to add some staff
When
members.
to add staff, when to remove staff.
Yeah.
It was, staffing, I think, was always kind of a hard thing.
Right, try to meet the needs of the congregation, but there's always that financial side of things as well.
How do you think, we have one off screen right now, but how did you decide to come to a full-time music minister? Because I think that's kind of a unique
It is
model.
unique, yeah. Well, I think we used to say, if money were no object, that was how we did a lot of the dreaming part of planning. And we'd say, well, if money were no object, what is the thing that stands out in this place that really, really we would like to do? And we were fortunate that we've had, and we are really fortunate now having this person who's hiding in the corner, because we were fortunate in we had a part-time person who was a fine musician and really solid worship-wise. And her name was Jean Gamlin or Jean Anderson. And she eventually moved to Rockford, Illinois. And then we had Carmen Tigan. And we decided at that point, if money were no object, what would it be? And we say, we're going to do something nobody does, and we're going to hire a full-time music and worship person. And try to shape the staff in that way, so that at that point we were down to a pastor and a half to do that. Which worked out very well because, the worship planning and things were taken over by Carmen, and she did a lot of that. She's a very fine musician, very dedicated person. And then Kartika, I don't even know how to be, I don't want to give her a really big head, but I mean, seriously.
It's all right. You can still see over it.
She's amazing, and I think in many ways it's one of the reasons that we've kind of gravitated back here, after a dozen years or more.
What is it like to come back after?
It's odd.
Yeah, I bet.
It's a little odd to do that. And really, I need to be very careful about being here because right now it's nice because nobody cares and nobody knows me, But before, I think it would have been very difficult to do that. And we were members of another congregation but eventually, we missed the worship and we missed the welcoming that this place is, and we're trying to be, members of the congregation, much like you are. And
but I'm sure it is challenging. You don't want to get.
I will
not. You don't want people to.
And I won't do. Official acts in the congregation and that kind of stuff. It's not fair to the people that are here and potential clergy that will be coming. So
I think it's fun to see you. You seem to usually smile a little bit.
Once in a while. It's good to see.
There's usually a line of people waiting to talk to you, so that's kind of nice. Yeah. What do you think is the? I mean, we've been around 60 years, right? And we've maybe touched on it a little bit, but quite honestly, despite some challenges in the last decade or between the pandemic and this and that, it's been up and down. But it certainly feels to me like we're definitely on an upswing.
I feel like we're on a little bit of an upswing. Absolutely.
Apparently, compared to a couple other ELCA congregations that are having some hard times. So, what do you think is the secret sauce, the magic? Is there a magic? Is there a magic? Is there a secret sauce? Is there a magic?
Well, our okay, here comes the preacher. Our sauce is the gospel, and it is God's unmitigated grace for this world that we live in. And I think if you live that and you embody that as a body, as a congregation, as a group of people, it's going to have a positive effect. That doesn't mean it's going to be what you want it to be. It's yet to be seen where this church and all churches are going this time because of culture and COVID did some really interesting things to the whole business of churches and other charitable organizations that are working. There's not the volunteerism and things is not always there. So the church has to adapt and has to change and has to be willing to hold on to its core, but at the same time be flexible enough to look and say, okay, this is where God's calling us to go and to be. And I think maybe that's why Good Shepherd's hanging in there, is because they've been doing that. listening to what God's got calling for them. Yeah. That was kind of preachy, but
Yeah, it wasn't bad though, really.
okay, thank you.
Well, just a little bit. It wasn't bad. And what do you? And will that be the secret to success in the future? Then, obviously, I mean, the future is going to be tough for some organized religion. It seems like, although it seems like, actually, according to things I've been reading lately, the kids are coming back again.
Yeah, they can be. Yeah, I don't think the church is meant to be smooth, and I don't think it's meant to be easy. And if you don't understand that, look at the disciples. They ended up hanging upside down on crosses and all kinds of other stuff. But I think as long as God's with us in the midst of all of this, and we live that seriously and are able to look past ourselves into the community, I think there's great promise for the Good Shepherd and other churches that step up to do that. And the community, I enjoyed the camaraderie and the work that's being done among churches. That's so helpful because we all work for the same boss.
Mm-hmm.
We do. And it's not Kartika. Sorry, Kartika.
Or Angie.
Or Angie.
Or my mom.
God bless them both.
Well, I appreciate you coming here, and I appreciate you kicking this off. And we obviously appreciate your 24 years of service and growing the place here.
Yeah,
I think a large part of why it's a special place.
I believe so. I mean, it's
Well, thank you for
a large part of why a lot of people are here.
allowing my dribble.
So,
you're looking for?
yeah, well, I just wanted to kind of, I guess, do a couple plugs. If this podcast gets out, we have the tomorrow night 5:30 campfire worship. So if you're available, come on out. It should be a nice evening. And the Strummers Monday nights 5:30 down by River Life. That's still ongoing with Kartika. So there's been a lot of people attending that. And then September 7th, this is what we're all kind of gearing up for. Kind of a festival worship. And 9 o'clock worship service, but 8 o'clock pickup choir. So if you want to come early, start that. And we'll have a lunch fellowship after worship. So more information to come on that, I'm sure. And we'll be doing some more interviews. Like Pastor John was our first. This is to get things rolling a little bit. Tim's been hard at work, I guess. Well,
Don't stretch it, but I've been trying to help a little bit. Yeah.
we've been trying to get people lined up so the next interview will be, I'm not sure who it is, but it'll be a surprise.
It's good to be back with you, buddy. Appreciate it.
You too.
Thanks for watching.